Te reo ererangi o Te Mānia. This episode was produced in Otatahi by Plains Media, with support from New Zealand On Air.
Today, the oceans hold their breath as we journey into Ringlet and the Day the Oceans Stop, by Felicity Williams, published by Ahoy, an imprint of the Cuba Press in 2019. Join Libby as waves of mystery, courage and wonder sweep us into an unforgettable adventure. Chapter 10. Shin-yon has an unpleasant job to do. Shin-yon had done many difficult chores for Petita, but this one had to be the worst. For a start, the rubbery red apron with the rubbery red hat and the rubbery red gloves and the rubbery red goggles with a splattering of budget red rhinestones were going to make her conspicuous. Shin-yon put conspicuous in the same category she put warts. Both were to be avoided. As the lead horse swam behind her, she would have to swim in every single race without any breaks, in front of hundreds of onlookers, holding a giant horsey poop scooper. "Shin-yon!" A familiar voice snapped her out of the unpleasant daydream. "I suspect that you are not taking this job seriously, in which case I will need to find you something less appealing." "I appreciate the opportunity you're giving me, madame," called Shin-yon in a voice that oozed compliance. If there was one thing to avoid at all cost, it was another lecture from madame about how lucky she was. "Are we ready? So pleased you like the firecracker red. You'll certainly stand out from the crowd." "But, madame," Shin-yon spoke in a small voice, "are you sure that standing out from the crowd is necessary?" "Speak up, dear! Yes, standing out. So glad you agree. Not everyone has the chance to be a fashion statement." "I hadn't thought of it like that," said Shin-yon. She picked up the giant shovel. It was extremely heavy. "Off we go! How I do love the thrill of the derby." Shin-yon checked her appearance in her pocket mirror. Not a hair out of place, as always. She forced herself to cheer up. She felt sure that promotion was around the corner. As Petita, 6th of the 7 stellar mermaids, entered the arena, everybody seated on either side of the racetrack stopped their babbling, and there was complete silence. The crab on Petita's shoulder carried a flashy golden bell and rang it furiously. "Our glorious patron, Petita, 6th of the 7 stellar mermaids, wishes to announce her arrival, and that the Nixie Seahorse Salon will begin shortly. Donations for Crab's Retirement Village may be made at booth 14. Petita swept into the VIP box. "Off you go, Shin-yon." She indicated the route that Shin-yon was to take. Shin-yon gasped. It was right down the centre of the racetrack, which was covered on either side with fish and merfolk from all over the oceanic kingdoms. "Please, madame," said Shin-yon, "can't I slip through the cleaner's entrance? Round the back?" She added, "Most certainly not." The plait swept upwards like a giant exclamation mark. "Shortcuts are only for those with no sense of adventure. So off you go, my poppet, and make sure there's a smile on that dial." Shin-yon scrunched her lips upwards. It was not a smile, but it was all she could manage. "Yes, madame. I'll do my best. I always do." And with that, Shin-yon launched herself off. It was the longest journey she had ever made, and her progress was agonizingly slow. She looked ridiculous, and she knew it. At one point, her tail got caught in the clamp of the poop scooper, and she went head over fins. While trying to free her tail, the goggles slipped down and, without any sense of direction, Xinyon crashed straight into a tiered seating stand filled with baby angelfish. The force knocked her tail free, but as the poop skewer spun, Xinyon was tossed towards it. And this time it was her red-hatted, red-goggled head that got caught in the clamp. She grabbed the scooper handle and tried to regain her composure. A roar of laughter went up from the crowd. "What splendid entertainment!" said a stingray, applauding loudly by thwacking his fins together. "Do it again!" Xinyon wrenched her head back out of the shovel. "No, thank you," she muttered. "I'm just trying to..." The preschool of baby angelfish, who, up until this time, had been watching with open-mouthed alarm, decided to giggle. "Poopy head! Poopy head!" they chorused in high-pitched voices. Xinyon grabbed the shovel and made another desperate attempt to move forward. Being the lead horse swimmer behind her was bad, but becoming the pre-show entertainment was unforgivable. She looked towards the VIP box. Madame would surely intervene and help her. But Madame was waving to a group of dignitaries who were approaching. Xinyon fixed her eyes on the seahorse pavilion. Almost there, she comforted herself with the promise of promotion and the many privileges that would come with it. A glycery tiara, Madame had mentioned it many times, for endeavour and sacrifice. It might even be a double tiara, thought Xinyon. After all, most tasks on the list were double or tripled. Xinyon dragged herself through the side entrance and onto the pavilion. She felt there was something she needed to figure out, but she didn't know what it was. "Finals! Round 1!" called a voice. "Line up in 5 minutes!" "Elimination! Round 2!" called a second voice. "Line up in 6 minutes!" 5 minutes? 6 minutes? How could one Mergirl with one shovel that she couldn't even hold properly hope to scoop up all that poop? The stingray was right. The minute she appeared on the racetrack, there was no getting away from the fact that she was going to be the entertainment. There was a flurry as a swarm of training mermaids, smartly dressed in glossy aprons, descended on the seahorses and commenced a brisk brushing. "Bit of a pong over in that direction," said one, flicking her head to where Xinyon sat huddled. "Be even worse in a minute," snickered another one. "Somebody's got to do it," said a mermaid who was spraying eau de cologne on the seahorses. "Just glad it's not me. But then, why would it be? It's not like I've misbehaved." Xinyon was about to say something when an older mermaid swooped efficiently around the corner. Around her waist was a tool belt which hung all sorts of gadgets, and across the front of her apron were the words, "Team Leader." "Settle," she commanded, waving a key at them. "Immediately. All of you. Whatever she's done, she's paying for it now, and in front of everyone." "Rules are rules, Rococo," said a prim little mermaid. "And if you break them, there are consequences." "All right, Dreads," said the team leader, swimming over to Xinyon. "But you tell me, who hasn't broken a rule occasionally?" Dreads blew out a perfect stream of bubbles. "I might have taken a few sequins off the bauble fish, but..." She narrowed her eyes. "They were shedding their skins at the time, so I was doing them a favor and doing my part to keep the ocean litter free." "There you are," said Rococo, patting Xinyon on the shoulder. "Precisely my point. Goggles here is doing the same as you, cleaning up the ocean. Let's show a little kindness. My name is not Goggles, it's Xinyon. She pushed the red visor up onto her forehead. And I haven't broken any rules. I have a flawless record and I'm about to be promoted. Dreads shrugged her shoulders. Whatever, she said, turning her attention back to a seahorse. But there's cleaning up, she continued, and there's mucking out, which is normally done by a dustpan fish. And my point is, whatever you did, it must have been awful. Otherwise, why would you have landed the poop scooper punishment? You stick to your jobs, and I'll stick to mine. Xinyon hoisted herself up on the edge of the scooper. This is my final assessment. So, if you don't mind, it was you who stole the starfish eggs from the incubator. I bet it was. You look like a thief. The shrill voice came from a Nixie over on the other side of the pavilion. Madame told me to go get those for the annual Omelette of the Year contest, said Xinyon. It wasn't stealing. There was a help yourself sign outside. The Nixie snorted. Heck, there was, he said. Xinyon tightened her lips. Oh dear, she was getting that feeling, that there was something she needed to know. Aren't you the one who pinched those rare sea tulips, the ones that only bloom every 1,000 years? Said another. There was a poster circulated. Not pinched, said Xinyon. Madame left a generous donation. I haven't done anything except be helpful. You must have done something, said Rococo. But never mind. Punishments don't last forever. Grit your teeth, get it over and done with, and then you'll be free of that overdressed trolloping windbag and her nosy Parker army of crabs. Xinyon gasped. Trolloping? Overdressed? You must be talking about someone else. Madame has impeccable fashion sense. And she's chosen me to... Chosen you to be her thief and accomplice. That's what... snorted a Nixie, who was trying to avoid being clouted by the tossing head of his seahorse. My grandmother spent a lifetime growing those tulips. You should be ashamed of yourself, stealing from an old Nixie lady. As he spoke, the Nixie seahorse began thrashing about. The thrashing attracted the attention of a sentinel fish, who shot towards them. Remove that animal at once, he babbled, excited at the opportunity to take some punitive action. Hysterics will result in disqualification. Xinyon got up and swam over to where the Nixie floated beside his seahorse. Stay away from me, said the Nixie. You thief! He kicked Xinyon in the lower tail. Xinyon began to sing. It surprised her, the singing. Was this something else she'd forgotten she could do? It was only a single phrase, but it was soft and melodious, and the seahorse stopped thrashing. The Nixie seized the opportunity and leapt on its back. See, I told you! Indigestion! Get away from me! He yelled. Stay away from us as well, chorused the other Nixies in unison. You're jammy, that's what you are. Stop it, all of you. It was Rococo. All that bickering. She is one of us, after all, and she's kind and well-mannered, and... She ran her eyes over to Xinyon's hairdo. Incredibly tidy. No one was listening. The Nixies, ever changeable, had sensed the possibility of an unfair advantage and began dragging Xinyon over to sing to their animals. It was evident, as she swam in and out and along the row, that once the melody left her lips, The seahorses were calmer and less fractious. "Cool trick, that singing you did." Chinon pushed her goggles up onto her forehead. It was another trainee mermaid. "Leave me alone," Chinon said. "We were all being a bit mean earlier," the mermaid continued. "Sorry about that. Push your nerves." "I'll tell you all you need to know about those," said Chinon, shutting her eyes. "Sorry again," said the mermaid. And when there was no response, "What you thinking?" "I am thinking," said Chinon slowly, still with her eyes shut, "about my promotion, which is about to happen after I have completed this task." "Oh dear," said the mermaid. "Would it be impolite of me to say, based on historical evidence, that I don't especially like your chances?" A second trainee mermaid joined them, and they positioned themselves, one on each side of her. "Tell her then," said one. "No, you," said the other. "Tell me what?" said Chinon, opening her eyes. "Hurry up, I've got a job to do." "That's just it," said the mermaid on the left. "Exactly," said the one on the right. Chinon grabbed the horsey poop scooper and hoisted herself up. "Whatever you're about to say can wait," she said, pulling down her goggles. "Madame knows I always rise to the challenge, and that's what I intend to do." "The only thing you're about to rise to," said the mermaid on her right, "is a pronounced episode of the heeble-jeebles, followed by a complete emotional and physical collapse, followed by—" here she paused. "Like the last four." "That's it," said the left mermaid. "Did right," said the other. "Did what?" said Chinon. She was getting annoyed. "Did," said the left mermaid. "As I was about to say." "Almost," said the right mermaid. "As good as," said the left mermaid. Chinon began to clunk her way towards the start line. She turned around. "And what would you know about anything?" she retorted. "You don't even have a to-do or die list, do you?" The two trainee mermaids exchanged glances. "You seem nice, that's all," said one. "Nixies have got zilch manners, and you help them." A loud honk signaled the start of the race. A curtain of frothy water separated the backstage area from the racetrack. Lifted and, with a lot of bubbling from the two sentinel fish, the Nixies were revealed in all their glory, atop their seahorses, lined up, ready to start. Chinon tried to think. Could it be true that Madame had made her steal those starfish eggs? And the sea tulips were an endangered species, she knew. And only a scatter left in the ocean. No donation, even if there had been one, would make amends for that. Another honk. The Nixies shuffled as the sentinel fish patrolled the lineup. Nixies were notorious for cheating. If they thought they could get away with it. A third honk. "On your marks!" screeched a sea snake, stretching itself out vertically on the left-hand side. "Get set!" An even louder screech as the sea snake coiled itself down into a tightly wound spiral. "Go!" In a massive explosion of bubbles, the Nixies charged. The colourful bridles were pulled and rippled as Nixies screamed in their reedy voices, all vying for a spot out front. They pushed and shoved and elbowed each other with what, to Chinon, looked like a blatant disregard for rules. And Chinon grabbing the last shred of persistence that she possessed, gripped the red pooper scooper and plunged into the frenzy of bubbles behind them. It was hopeless. She swung, she walloped, and in desperation, she even managed a clumsy pirouette. But not one single dollop of poop did she scoop. A whirling noise startled her. A huge machine, also firecracker red, was advancing. At one end was Rococo, and on the other was Dreads, each one steering a propellerfish. Along the length of the contraption was a row of red buckets swinging backwards and forwards. "Automatic horsey pooper scooper!" called out Rococo. It was in the corner, covered with crustaceans, and padlocked as well, which was odd. A couple of nixies dragged it out and fixed a faulty mechanism, most unlike them to be helpful. "Keep swimming straight ahead and wave to the crowd." All of a sudden, the shovel didn't feel as heavy. Shinyon heaved it along behind her, and as she turned her head from left to right, she felt sure the boisterous crowd were cheering her on. She felt blissful. Here she was, managing, against all odds. Madame would be pleased, and that was all she wanted. She did a somersault, more cheering, a twirl around the shovel, a din of giggles from the baby angelfish. She waved. "Stop the race!" A blast of icy blue spit hit her. "Halt the rabble! Constrain the flotsam and jetsam!" "Platita, 6 of the 7 stellar mermaids," began the crab as he sped down the outstretched arm, "wishes to abrupt the proceedings momentarily." His words were interrupted as an almighty splat from Platita saw him catapulted through the water. Crabs were flung far and wide as Platita exploded like a rocket over the rails and headed straight towards the racetrack. Hysteria overcame the seahorses as Platita, 6 of the 7 stellar mermaids, sped towards them. Fearing a collision, nixies tugged desperately on the bridles. The seahorses squeaked in terror as confused crabs tried to attach themselves to any tail that was available. Nixies began to bicker and punch each other. It was utter mayhem, and the bystanders loved it. "Waving to the crowds, are we?" screamed Platita. "And how does that constitute fulfillment of the task I have assigned you? I do not seem to remember saying anything about ingratiating yourself with the common public." Rococo swam forward and smiled brightly. "Surely, as long as the job's done well, it doesn't matter how it's done." Platita, 6 of the 7 stellar mermaids, swooned. Then she swung back up again. "What matters?" she hissed. "The only thing that matters," she paused to emit 2 rapid blasts of blue spit at Rococo, "is that dear Shin-yon should have been thankful, accepting of her punishment." "Punishment?" said Shin-yon, dumbfounded. "Without which there can be no promotion." "No promotion?" Shin-yon felt her voice quiver. "You said this job was a reward. You did." The crowd leaned forwards, and in the silence Shin-yon knew. She knew what the feeling was that had been simmering away deep inside. Platita's face turned a deep shade of purple. Veins pulsated on her forehead. "That machine can be put back in storage," she snarled. "Where I hid it, Shin-yon is to do this job on her own." She turned to Shin-yon. "You're a disgrace, and my time in training you has been utterly wasted. Xinyon looked at Rococo in dreads. She looked at the Nixies. She saw one Nixie nod at the others as one by one the seahorses lined up behind the automated pooper scooper. Rococo and Dreads slapped the propeller fish. Their fins started whirling, and the huge red machine went chugging towards Potita. "Put that monstrosity in reverse," bellowed Potita. "Toot des sweet tums." And an entire row of seahorses retracted their front hooves and kicked the back of the buckets as hard as they could. Potita, 6 of the 7 stellar mermaids, did not see it coming. A second swoon for dramatic effect, with the audience looking on, had seemed advisable, with a hissing instruction to the crabs, who had more or less managed to reassemble themselves around her tail. She had closed her eyes and lain backwards, arms floating in front of her. The big crab, however, did see it coming. He had clambered back to reclaim his regular spot on Potita's arm, fiercely loyal to the end. He did the best he could, which was to spread himself as a shield across Potita's face, and then, with as much force as he could muster, he plunged his toothpick leg into a spot above her right eyebrow. As a warning, Potita screamed and opened her eyes. Too late to avoid the debris that was hurling towards her, the pooper scooper spun around to discard its contents, drenching the crabs and leaving Potita, 6th of the 7 stellar mermaids, a sodden, smelly mess. Potita ripped the crab from her face, or at least she tried to. He had dug his feet in so deep that all that was torn off was his body. 5 legs were still embedded deep within his skin. "Xinyon!" she screamed. "You fired!" Xinyon picked up the scooper. It felt lighter. She felt lighter. "Please, madame," she begged. "Let me show you how well I can scoop." And in front of Nixies, sea creatures, and merfolk from the 4 corners of the oceanic kingdoms, she lifted the pooper scooper and flung a giant scoop of poop into the astonished face of Potita, 6 of the 7 stellar mermaids. The oceans may have paused, but our adventure is far from over. Join Libby next Saturday at 9:30 a.m. as we continue exploring Ringlet and the Day the Ocean Stopped, by Felicity Williams, published by Ahoy, and imprint of the Cuba Press. Keep your curiosity alive and your hearts open, because the magic, mystery, and wonder of the sea are waiting for us in the next chapter on Spin Me a Tale.